So, welcome to my little bike shed. These bike sheds is very common in Holland, and I've tried to make this one into my workshop. I've put some boards against the wall so I can hang stuff with ease. I'm also going to make some workbenches, one on this side and one on the other side. So you can see in the upcoming video that I boarded up each section at one time. Please enjoy this video, and I hope there's more to come.
So this was my desk before, which I used for some projects. I had a radio, and as you can see, it is quite cluttered. I used to work out of this toolbox, but this isn't really organized, and I wanted to mount everything to the wall. Here you can see some other tools, including a bandsaw, which I'm going to set up on the other side on a workbench. So, how I went about this job. I numbered some sheets and worked according to our plan. First I had to clear out the shed, of course, and I set up a workbench outside. Here you can see me cutting some material, some roofing material to fix behind the beams on which I fixed the sheets of plywood. As you can see, I need a lot of strips, and now it was time to staple them to the beams. I used a hand stapler. Then I drilled some holes to mount the beams to the wall. And later I countersunk them. Here you can see me in a time lapse. I'm cutting and pre-drilling all of the beams. And here's the finished product. These are all for one side of the shed. First I did one side, and then I completed the other half of the shed. So here you can see me drilling the beams to the wall. After this they were ready for some plastic. This keeps the moisture out of the plywood, and the beams are treated so I used a piece of wood which I cut to length, and this piece of wood helped me to keep all beams parallel. Of course I used ear protection. So I raised all sheets of plywood off of the floor, because then air can circulate between the wall and the sheet of plywood. This ensures that the wall can dry. So now I'm starting on the other half of the shed, which of course I had to clear out, and I moved all the stuff to the other side of the tiny shed. So here you can see I'm again making the beams, only for this side, and dismantling the electrics. So I won't go into detail here because I pretty much covered everything. These are the same beams I used on the other side. So if you're paying attention, you can see that I used the wrong piece of wood and I had to go back a bit. So all beams were sadly not long enough, and I had to lengthen every beam by 30 centimeters at the end. So I had all sheets pre-cut at the DIY store, but there are two sheets that I didn't have had pre-cut. And one of them I'm cutting now, and I used a circular handsaw to cut them. Here I brought in the piece of wood I just cut, and again this is raised off the floor. So why did I go about insulating my shed? Well, this isn't so much insulating as it's a barrier against moist. I'm going to store some tools in the shed, and I didn't want, or I wanted to prevent moisture from getting into the shed. And of course, by fixing plywood to all the walls, I could mount my tools to the wall quite easily. So here you can see that I'm fixing the sheet of plywood to the wall. And this is the final piece. Now I did paint all the sheets of plywood, and this is just to increase light reflection. So thanks for watching, and stay tuned to the channel to see part 2 of my build.